ईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। या देवी सर्वभूतेषु छायारूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः। या देवी सर्वभूतेषु छायारूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः। या देवी सर्वभूतेषु छायारूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः।
Namaste. Welcome to Kaivalli Yoga Gurukulam on this delightful Friday evening for another wonderful satsang where we continue to learn the Sri Chakra. As always, before we begin such heightened learning and heighten our consciousness and open our minds to newer horizons of thought and perception, let us invoke Lord Ganesha. From within the Mooladhara, from the depths of our own mind, deep inside, this elephantine power that begins to clear the darkness, the dark shrouds, the deep bushes in our forest, clears the unconscious, subconscious mind and the conscious mind, removes all the preconditioned mindsets and opens our mind to fresh learning. It is with that reverence we offer this bhajan with the mantra Om Ganganapataye Namaha.
Om Ganganapataye Namaha. Om Ganganapataye Namaha. Om Ganganapataye Namaha. Om Ganganapataye Namaha. Om Ganganapataye Namaha. Om Ganganapataye Namaha. Om Ganganapataye Namaha. ॐ गं गणपतये नमः। 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 विनायका विनायका विघ्नविनाशक विनायका 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 विघ्नविनाशक विनायका गौरीनन्दन हे शिवनन्दन पार्वतीनन्दन गजानना गौरीनन्दन हे शिवनन्दन पार्वतीनन्दन गजानना मूषिकवाहन गजानना मोदकहस्ता गजानना मूषिकवाहन गजानना मोदकहस्ता गजानना विनायका विनायका विघ्नविनाशक विनायका 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 विघ्नविनाशक विनायका ॐ गं गणपतये नमः। ॐ गं गणपतये नमः। ॐ गं गणपतये नमः। ॐ गं गणपतये नमः। शुक्लाम्बरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये अगजानन पद्मार्कम् गजाननमहर्निशम् अनेकदन्तं भक्तानाम् एकदन्तमुपास्महे एकदन्तमुपास्महे ॐ गं गणपतये नमः। 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 ॐ गं गणपतये नमः।
Namaste. For those of you who have just joined, welcome to the satsang. Let us continue in this journey into this beautiful city of the divine goddess, the Sri Chakra, the Sri Nagara as it is called. So we covered the first 4 cardinal directions. Let's proceed. Let's go to the slideshow. All right, there you go. So this is where we were. We had studied the Anima Siddhi, the Lahima Siddhi, the Mahima Siddhi, and the Ishitva Siddhi. The apparent desires, the so-called wanting of all of these, not knowing that these energies already exist in us. And when we recognize these energies that exist in us already, we tend to misinterpret these energies and misuse these energies, like we explained and learned, and we continue that. The moment we understand the energy in the right perspective, the deity of that energy in the right perspective, and begin to treat that energy in the right way, in the optimum way rather, giving that deity, the energy, the full respect that it deserves, then she moves aside, allowing us to enter to higher realms. In other words, we get so empowered by this that we seek more and more and more, and ultimately we stop at nothing less than the divine union. If we do not understand these siddhis, then, like I said, we live in a world of misplaced humility, low self-esteem, and oh, I cannot do this, and we get attached to things, we get bound to things, and all of these are the same energies, but we don't understand them, we misuse those energies. So the gates seem to be closed to spirituality, to anything in life basically. And then if you don't get the basic things in life, how are you going to achieve or ask or even yearn for something higher, right? If somebody is in the desert, not had food or water for many days, you're not going to sit, if you meet him, sit there and preach him about love and divinity. The first thing that his body craves for, that he craves for, is food and water. So it is the basic things that sometimes bind us so powerfully that we are unable to look beyond that. And therefore it is important for us to understand these siddhis, and then when we invoke them in our consciousness, we understand them in the right way, pay homage to them in the right way. And that understanding has to translate and will translate when we do this regularly. Let us say on the 8th day of the new moon and the full moon phase, every 8th day, that is called the Ashtami in Sanskrit. The 8th day, you say, I'm going to do the Devi Khadgamala stotra every 8th day. So that's twice a month, right? So when we do that, then what happens is every time you come across these names, these siddhis, once you learn it, it will take a while. Then when you keep repeating these names of these siddhis, these energies, these deities who are within you and me, then the perception gets more and more clear. And then we begin to apply that clarity of perception and use these energies in the right form in our lives. Then and only then they truly give way. So it's not a mystical meditation where they give away and you get an experience of that kind. If that is so, that is short-lived. But the true transformation, a true permanent heightened consciousness, we will learn one term called samadhana. It is called a very beautiful term in the pre-qualifications of a spiritual sadhaka. We'll come to that. I've talked about that from Varanasi, but we will take that separately. Samadhana means where do I rest? Where is my resting place right now? Is it when I come back and say, this is what I love? Is that food? This is what I love. Is that sleep? This is what I love. Is that some kind of sensual pleasures like tasting an ice cream or watching a movie or sitting in the lounging, reclining chair? In other words, if that is where your mind rests, then we need to find a better resting place. Why? Because that kind of resting is very temporary. When your mind begins to rest in meditation, when you come into meditation and say, this is where I want to be. I want to be, this is my home, this is where I want to be. When you're truly not convincing yourself or feeling guilty if you don't feel it, none of that. It has to happen naturally. If not, that's fine. When it happens naturally, then you know that these energies are paving way and opening doors permanently for you. All right, let's proceed to now the other direction. I always forget which is cardinal, which is ordinal. Anyway, all right. Now we go to the four corners of the Sri Chakra, of the first gate. We are at the first gate, the first among the three walls of the first Avarna, the first sheath. So now in this fifth siddhi, we come across Vashitva siddhi. Vashi. For those of you who know Hindi, there is a term that is normally used called Vashikaran. Vash mein lena, we say Vash. Vashikaran. Vashitva siddhi. Now this is actually a siddhi, an attainment that we seek, where we seek to influence people. In other words, how is this different from being seeking lordship, right? Ishitva was seeking lordship. That seeking lordship was in certain talents and all of that. I want to be the best. I want to be a ruler of music. I want people to look up to me as the king of music or the king of yoga, whatever. That is Ishitva. Here, I want to influence. We will start with people and understand with people. Animals and plants and all of that comes later. But I want to influence, I want to charm people. So that is what is Vashitva. So there is one school of thought which will tell you, do this mantra, you will be able to charm people, you will be able to attract women, you tie this on your wrist and all of that. I have not experienced or not experimented, I have not experienced, so I have no rights to speak. I'm not going to speak upon that kind of Vashikaran and that kind of attraction. But I want to tell you, how do we attain this siddhi? What is the real path? The real path means the hard way. All of the others also the hard way, right? The way where we become transformed and begin to understand these siddhis. That is what these are. These are divine deities, right? These are energies of Sri Devi herself. So Vashikaran, how do I influence people? How do I attract people? How do I make them listen to me? Very simply put, very difficult to do. What is that? That is being a role model. I learned this from Baba himself. Why were we as youngsters, 17-year-old, 18-year-old, 20-year-old youngsters, attracted to somebody when we knew him he was 57, 58, 60, 65? That was the age when I knew him, right? His age. So why would a 15, 18, 20-year-old be attracted, be charmed, be so allow himself or herself to be so influenced by a 57-year-old, 55-year-old, 60-year-old? What was that? What was the charm that Baba had over millions of people? To me, I ask this question. And the only way I can come up with this answer is how not just one boy or two boys, but over 1,000 students in that campus were never forced to do anything. Of course, some basic rules were, of course, in place. That's normal, right, in any dorm, in any institution. But other than that, nobody was ever forced. Nobody was ever curtailed or any of that force was used. They felt inspired because they were influenced by one person, Baba. Why? Because he spoke well? No. Because he was a role model in what he did. He spoke to us about health and fitness and slim, lean bodies, and he maintained that. He spoke to us about discipline and silence, and he was 100% in that. He spoke to us about cleanliness, about health and so on, and he was 100% example of all of that. So it's a different matter when he got hurt and fell in the wheelchair. That's a whole different side to the story. But when you look at him, you look at him and you're influenced by him because his thought, his word, and his deed matched his core belief. He believed something, his thought matched with that core belief, his words matched with that core belief, his actions were reflections of that core belief, and therefore he became a role model. So when he would come out for darshan, and many of you have witnessed this, many of you can see that in videos even till today, thousands of people seated, when he would walk out, there would be no crowds rushing to him, nothing like that. There was just ordinary sevadals standing there, volunteers. And for many decades, there were no volunteers also. It only happened in the mid-90s or so, they gotten more volunteers to stand as a mark of respect for Baba, so he could come out more into the crowd and so on and so forth. But there was no necessity for crowd control. No necessity. There was no necessity for a loudspeaker and a guy shouting, please keep quiet, Baba is coming, please keep quiet, please maintain silence. Nothing, right? When he stepped out, this little form, 5 foot 5 inches or 4 inches, he would step out, just that hush will form in the crowd, and the entire crowd, no matter whatever festival it was, whether it was a Dashera festival, whether it had 80, 90,000 people gathered in one place, or a birthday crowd which had lot more people, a few 100,000 people, nevertheless, there was a hush in the crowd. The only sound, if there was any, would be some bhajans, if it was time for bhajans, otherwise it will be just a hush. That is Vashikaran. That is true example of Vashitva siddhi in its perfect expression, if you will. And so how did that happen? He was a role model. If I want to influence my wife into exercise, if I want to do something for my children, if I want to convey something and convince somebody else, my friends, then all I need to do truly, and that's the difficult part, I can force them, I can give lectures to them, I can write things on the wall and put things on the refrigerator, I can buy apps and I can do all of that to motivate. But none of that will have a permanent impact on them. That won't be considered my influence on them. We might use some objects to influence, but the true influence on those whom we love, whom we want to influence, comes when you become the role model. Then they automatically listen to you. They automatically listen to you. When somebody who's healthy teaches you exercise, you listen to them. Why? Because he is the proof of being healthy and fit, and so you learn exercise from that person. Man or woman, it doesn't matter. When somebody speaks to in Sanskrit and explains the meaning of Vedanta, you listen to them because they are scholars, they are role models in that. So this is how the best way to do Vashikar. Now this is tied into Ishitva, where I talked about excellence. When you search for excellence and be excellent in whatever talent you want to acquire and whatever you do, you become a lord. But along with that, when you are getting excellence in every aspect of your life, when you become a role model of what you want somebody else to be, we understand this today in society. We say, be the change that you want to see in the society. Be the change that you want to see in the family. You be the change. Then Vashikaran automatically happens. I had a friend, and he would complain to me often, and he said, every time we go to these stores like Walmart and all that, there is one near my house, every time I go, when I stand in the check-in counter, this lady looks at me in a very weird way. I don't know why. I think she's suspecting I'm some kind of a illegal immigrant or something. This man had his own problems, own issues. So he came tell me every time they do that, maybe it's because we are Indians or brown skin or something like that. And he was going on and on every time. Some kind of topic came up, he'll come up with that. I said, why do you think? Maybe it's just your imagination. He said, no, you come with me and see what happens. So I went with him, and I let him go first. And of course, he was standing, he was looking at her, and this lady obviously didn't know anybody, right? So she just started checking. He looked at me and showed face. He just said, see, no response, nothing. With others, they greet and say, how are you and all. So I walked right up to him and I looked at her and said, "Hello, how's it going?" And she just gave a beautiful smile and said, "Oh, everything is going fine. Thank you for asking. How are you doing today?" I said, "Great." And then we finished, and I said, and we were walking out, and he said, "What is that? How did she manage to speak to you?" I said, "You want somebody to smile at you and be friendly to you. So why don't you break the ice and do the smiling first? You could have greeted her." That's what I did, and immediately the ice was broken. But when you make a sour face and say, "Let somebody else smile at me, why should I smile at them first?" and you make a sour face, you will not get a smile from the world back at you. If you be the change that you want to see in everybody else, then the change is right there. It just manifests right there. Because you are projecting the very change that you want others to do. So Baba would give love, and he received love. He didn't sit back and say, "I want all your love, give me all your love." No, he said, "Take love, take. And in giving, he began to receive. That is the beauty of Vashikaran. Vashikaran is not how much I can get from people, how can I influence somebody else. That is a very mean, very low thinking. You can never get that. That is when you insult these kind of energies. And these energies will always misfire because you're constantly thinking of you as separate from others and all of that. How do I control that person? How do I make that person listen to me and all of that? So that is a weird world. Like I said, I don't know much about it, but I'm not even interested in looking in that because it doesn't fit into and I'm sure our philosophy, where we are beginning an inclusive philosophy. The best way to influence the world around you, the society around you, beginning with your children, your family, your friends, your community, your nation at large, is being the role model. And that's difficult. Many parents ask me how to deal with children, and I tell them, first of all, I don't have children, so I don't know. But I can tell you one thing, how Baba dealt with us. He simply was the role model, and that being the role model was enough to extend, if you will, that aura of influence. You inspire people. True Vashikaran is when you begin to inspire people. And they say, "Wow, I want to be like that person. When I grow up, I want to be like that person." When I was 18 or 19, in our first year in graduation in Puttaparthi, Swami sent this lady, her European lady, her name was Indira Devi. She's a great yogi. She lived up to 102 years. And she was the first European lady student who was taught by Yogi Krishnamacharya, who also lived to be 100 years in Chennai. And he was a Brahmin. He has never taught another lady other than his own wife and children. He never taught another lady, leave alone a white lady. But he broke those traditions. He taught her because of her interest. And she was a devotee of Baba. So when she came to see Baba, Baba once sent her to us saying, "This is old youngsters, just eating and sleeping, go teach." I was in Vrindavan at that time for a few days. And so I saw her, and guess how old she was at that time? 72, 73, right? 72, 73-year-old lady demonstrating yoga in the dining hall. And that's when it clicked to me, I want to be like that when I am 72, 73. So how did she influence me? Did she had this magic spell or something like that she wanted me to be like her? Nothing, right? She was who she is. But being a role model of what you speak automatically influences people around you. So Vashikaran is that. When you understand that, then you begin to energize, activate the Vashitva siddhi. It's a very powerful siddhi. But just as powerful as it comes into activation, the same manner all these deities, all these energies can go back into dormant state. When you stop being the role model, or when you stop saying one thing and doing something else, then what happens? At some point, that dichotomy will reflect itself. At some point, you can't put a false picture throughout. It's impossible. At some point, at some level, that will happen. So that is when these energies become dormant. But when we are constantly revering these energies, then the Vashitva siddhi happens. So to me, Vashitva siddhi, the path to Vashitva siddhi, the way we can revere this divine energy is being a role model. What I believe, I want to speak. In other words, have oneness in your thought, word and deed. That's what I mean by being a role model. You don't have to portray something else. I believe something, I speak that. What I think, I speak. What I speak, I do. My thinking, my speaking, my action, thought, word and deed are all together. Then you become Mahatmyam. Vachas ekam, manas ekam, vachas ekam, karman ekam. Mind, thought and action are all one. Then Baba would say, manas ekam, vachas ekam, karman ekam, mahatmanam. He's a great man. And of course, great man means all of the other siddhis come, right? Everybody knows you, everybody like the vastness and all of that comes. Vashitva also falls in place. So oneness in thought, word and deed. Being a role model. To me, that is my understanding of Vashitva siddhi. Then comes the next. You see, now we are going to the corners, right? It's very easy. Remember the way this approach, the same approach will go in the second wall and in the third wall as well. So you go to the gates first and then the four corners. So now, fifth is over. The sixth siddhi is Prakamya siddhi. Prakamya siddhi. Prakamya siddhi is kama. Kama is what? Desire. So the ability to have all your desires under your will, that is Prakamya siddhi. Prakamya is developing willpower. This is developing willpower. When you stick to a discipline in your life, you develop willpower. Come rain or sun, this is my discipline. Prakamya siddhi, this energy will automatically begin to get activated. This is rather a simple energy actually, very simple. It is directly connected to discipline. Discipline is what brings willpower. And through that will, we'll be able to manifest and control all our desires. So, willpower, discipline, Prakamya siddhi is discipline. Discipline in a physical sense, or when you should get up and when you should sleep and so on and so forth. I'm not talking of rigid military type of discipline. Okay? There are always exceptions to any rule, and that's okay. That is good. The dam, even though it stops the huge flow of water, there is always some water it allows it to leak, because that's being healthy, right? So I'm not talking of some robotic, weird, dogmatic kind of discipline. You can do that as well. That is like an intense tapas for a short period. You can say, I want to do this for a short period. You can't keep that forever. So, few exceptions here and there, that's fine. But in general, there has to be an element of discipline in our lives. Without discipline, nothing happens. Nothing happens. Even like I always keep saying, even a river, without the banks to control it, it becomes devastating. So anything life-giving can actually be life-taking when there is no discipline. Discipline, when you bring in, then you overcome the excess of these elements in the body. You harness powers of laziness, you harness powers of greed, and so on and so forth. Discipline in talking, discipline in your actions. Baba would emphasize so much on discipline. It is unbelievable how much he himself would practice discipline. When I say Baba would emphasize on silence in where he resided, in the mandir, it is not an exaggeration to say pin drop silence. Because truly, if a pin drops, he would say, hey, what has happened? So we would be downstairs, even if we cough like this or clear our throat, he will hear it. And he'll say, what happened? Why are you clearing your throat? You have a cough, you have a cold. So the silence was phenomenal. He maintained it himself. He never spoke loud or laughed loud, nothing like that. Right? Even the most beautiful smile that would come out of him would be just a great smile, and he would laugh, but never, the decibels would never reach anywhere close to how I'm talking right now. This is a very loud talk. Except, of course, when he gave discourses, it's a different thing. So, discipline is Prakamya Siddhi. It develops tremendous willpower. And that willpower, when it's directed towards an object, towards a person, towards a goal, automatically it begins to manifest that goal. Because you already trained your mind and your body and your senses to have discipline. So, just like role model, being a role model, having oneness in thought, word and deed, it helps in Vashitva, Siddhi. Same way, developing willpower through discipline helps in Prakamya Siddhi. Like I tell people, even if you don't feel like yoga, just pull a mat, drop yourself on the mat and lazily stretch. Just join me for the yoga session and just lazily stretch. Cheat, it doesn't matter. But let the brain slowly understand that time is for yoga, and so there is no escape. Then it gets tamed. No circumstances will come where it becomes suddenly seem, oh, that phone rang, I got caught up, or something came up. All this will slowly melt away. Because your will is strong, it will melt all the others. This is a great lessons from Hanuman and Arjuna and all of these great warriors we learn. That's why they had all these siddhis with them. So when we begin that, then of course layers, these same siddhis have so many layers of manifestation. All right. Then let's go to the next siddhi. So you see how beautiful these siddhis are. And because we don't understand them, we get trapped in wanting all of this all the time. So if you look at YouTube, they'll say chant this mantra for this siddhi and that siddhi, you'll get wealth, you'll get tons of money, and you'll get peace, and you'll get good sleep at night, and this and that. So many, because everybody's seeking that. As long as you're seeking that, these doors are closed. You're going round and round simply seeking. Even when you're doing puja, if you say, I want this siddhi, please give me this siddhi, then you miss the point. The siddhi is already in us. We have to recognize it in the right light. Nurture it in the right direction. And then that siddhi, she grows and she says, wow, you understood me. Now, I give you the journey to a higher level. So they come with us, they let us go. So there's a beauty in this. So anyway, the next one is Bhukti Siddhi. Bhukti. Bhukti is, the Mukti, there's an opposite of Mukti is Bhukti. Bhukti is sensual enjoyment. Enjoying the senses. The ability to enjoy the senses. Now, here again, discipline plays an important role. How can I enjoy something without discipline? Can I get too much of something? Then too much doesn't mean too good, right? In economics, microeconomics, there is a term called the law of diminishing marginal utility. So I liked the first cup of ice cream. I loved it. So I asked the vendor, give me one more cup of ice cream. Then he gives me one more cup of ice cream. I have the second cup of ice cream. So now my joy has increased more. My pleasure has increased more. My level of satisfaction has gone up more. I'm like, wow, this is awesome. Give me one more. I'm really digging into this ice cream. I really love this ice cream. So give me one more. All right. So the vendor is very happy. Of course, he's getting business. So he gives you one more cup of ice cream and you instantly have the third cup of ice cream. Now what happened, the amount of satisfaction that you got from the second cup is not coming from the third cup. It's slightly more. Like, yeah, it was really good. I just want to have one more. Maybe it'll come back. And you have the fourth cup. By the time you have the fourth cup, it's kind of leveling out now. Like, oh, I'm so full, but this is so tasty. It's so tasty. Because somewhere in the back of your mind, you're hoping to get that first cup's experience in the fifth cup. This is what happens to us in sensual enjoyments, right? We keep going back again and again thinking, the first time I liked it, so the fifth time I must like it even more. Sixth time I must like it even more. or the 6th time, 7th time I keep going, I'm hitting a brick wall now. Why? Because by this time, the brain, the mind, the senses, the body has reached a saturation level. How many times have we come out of a party? How many times have we got up from the dinner table saying, oh my God, I can't even move. I need to loosen my pant buttons or loosen my pajama nadis or whatever it is. Like, because we ate so much. Is that giving us great joy? No, it is giving us tremendous amount of discomfort. So now that has actually worked completely against what we wanted. So is that Bhukti Siddhi? No. That is not Bhukti Siddhi. Bhukti Siddhi is when you learn to be content with what you experience, considering that experience as complete in itself and being completely mindful and immersed in that experience when that experience presents itself through the senses. If I'm looking at a beautiful rose, I enjoy that rose. Right now, if I'm looking at the altar, that's the rose right here. If I look at this rose, I just enjoy, I become one with that rose. I'm like, wow, this is a beautiful flower. Let me take a moment to absorb it. Then what happens? That experience becomes complete in itself. I'm not saying, give me one more rose, give me one more rose, give me one more rose. Why? Because that is complete in itself. This is for the sight. The same thing for the taste as well. The reason why we dig into that potato chips when we are sitting at, this is all Bhukti Siddhi, right? We have a potato chips packet and we are watching movie and we're just gulping it down, or a popcorn, and we are gulping it down, and before we know it's over, and I'm like, oh gosh, I want one more. Why is that happening? Because you're not giving your attention to the food that you're eating, you're watching something else. So you're barely giving attention. The brain has not registered this experience. So when it is over, you're like, oh gosh, I want to have more. I want to get back to that experience. But the next packet in your hand, again you're caught up in something else. So your senses are all over the place. Discontentment. You're neither watching the movie nor this. Somehow we have convinced ourselves that we are having a good time eating popcorn and watching a movie, or drinking soda and watching a movie. We have convinced it. We have defined that is happiness. We are not. Actually, we don't really enjoy any one of them in its entirety. Contentment, to me, is the key to enjoy sensual pleasures. So when they come, enjoy it. At that moment, enjoy it. Completely to the level of perfect satisfaction. So when you're having one cup of ice cream, be grateful to that one cup of ice cream and say, I'm going to eat this slow, I'm going to enjoy this completely. And then when you eat it slow and enjoy it, even in terms of, especially when it comes to eating, because most of our Bhukti Siddhis are all about eating, right? When you eat slow, there is a chemical that is released from the stomach to the brain, and the brain reads that chemical, and the brain says, I'm satisfied. When the brain is satisfied, you're done. You won't have that desire. So eating slow actually helps. So it is tied to, how do I develop Bhukti Siddhi? Be mindful of that experience. Sensual experiences, experience from the eyes, sense of touch, sense of taste, sense of smell, are not bad at all. They're all, these are all divine energies. Bhukti Siddhi is a divine energy. It is given to us for a particular purpose. But if we don't understand it, we start craving, I want more of this, more of this, more of this, more of this. And then what happens is, if I want to constantly only take pleasure in eating good food, there will come a time in my age, either age-related or body-related disease will come and put a full stop to it. Then I am left forever, the rest of my life, in a state of discontentment, because I was never content in the very first place with all the wonderful delicacies that I had in the first few decades of my life. Bhukti Siddhi. That is why there are 4 ashramas in Sanatana Dharma. What are those 4 ashramas? At the young age, you focus on study. You focus on the Brahman, the highest knowledge, Brahmacharya comes. Then you focus on getting a partner in your life, and you work your way into livelihood, have children, have family, run a family life. Seek a job, a career, do business, whatever it is, right? So that is Grahastha, it is called. Some other time we'll get into more in detail. But I'm coming to this Bhukti Siddhi. Then comes a time after you're 60, then you begin to retire slowly and say, you know what, I want to wind up now, things done. I want to now slowly go, get ready for my journey on. I want to start thinking of higher things in life. I've enjoyed all that now. For up to 60 years, they give you time. And then when you come to 80, then you're ready to renounce everything. Because now in that 60 to 80, you begin to taste the higher things. So the other small movies and food and all of that is automatically dropped. Attachments, all those things go away. Why doesn't it happen these days? Now the older people are more attached to their children, grandchildren, and so on and so forth, more worried, more. I'm not saying these are bad and all. This is just how it is today, right? But consider this. Instead of, so when we want to go into Sri Chakra and attain Devi, then she says, you are caught up in the outside gates. My gates are ready to be open for you to come. But we are caught up outside. Bhukti siddhi is not happening. We want more bhukti, more bhukti, more. I want the pleasure of family. I want the progeny and money and savings and investments and this and that. We get caught up. The same cricket match is appealing to, when I'm 90 years old, it was appealing to me when I was 16 years old. Not that it's bad or good. I'm not talking at all about a religious spin on this. I'm talking about what is more useful for us as we near the end. What should be more occupying? To me, I just can't understand how we can do the same things that we did when we were 20, when I'm 60 or when I'm 80. Then what am I learning? Am I so discontent that I keep going back to that same thing? Bhukti siddhi will not happen. And you'll forever be kept wanting. So when you tie that into discipline and bring contentment, so enjoy. When you're enjoying, enjoy it. Enjoy when you're eating, enjoy the food in front of you completely. Then you will not crave for more. It's when you get distracted, you miss. Right? Somebody's telling a joke, and at the right point your phone rings, and you're like, oh gosh, I missed what he said. What was that he said? Can somebody tell me? Why that happened? Because you're not able to enjoy that punchline in the joke because you got distracted. So in our senses, when our senses are all over the place and there is a constant state of distraction, there is never satisfaction. So when you focus on one and enjoy that fully, then there is complete satisfaction. Okay? So, bhukti siddhi. I have a tough time saying bhukti siddhi. Always goes bhukti suddhi. So, bhukti siddhi. The power to enjoy. The power to enjoy. Okay? Bhukti siddhi. Alright. Then we come to the 8th corner. Icha siddhi. Icha siddhi. This is where Icha is my desire has to manifest. I desire something, it has to manifest. This is a tough one, right, for many of us. Why is it tough for us? Because we have so many desires. Why are all those desires not manifesting? Fortunately, they are not manifesting. Like if you just say, I wish I was riding an elephant right now, and imagine you're in the middle of your living room and suddenly an elephant pops up and you're on top of the elephant. So it's in a good way that these things don't happen just like that. Icha siddhi, it's a whole big topic, but I'm going to keep it short. But nevertheless, it's important for us to understand because we are actually revering and invoking these deities even as we talk. These deities within us are awake and listening, and you are communicating with these deities just by even listening like these. So Icha siddhi is, Icha has to find attainment. The desire, Icha means a desire. A desire has to find fulfillment. Now, every thought comes and goes. Thoughts come and go. I'll tell you the signs, the way I've understood it, the way I practice it. Thoughts come and go. Hundreds, thousands, millions of thoughts, right? All of them don't find manifestation, either in our body, inside or outside. They don't find manifestation, correct? But there are some thoughts that will manifest, affect us, our moods, manifest as a chemical in the brain coming down into the blood, poison the blood, either or this way or that way, right? Happiness or sad, anger or jealousy, all of that. So there are certain thoughts that begin to manifest inside, and then if you keep nurturing that thought, it will manifest outside as well. But not all. What is the difference? What is the reason? What is it that is fueling certain thoughts, and certain thoughts dry up without fuel in their body? I will tell you the secret. The secret comes from the heart chakra. It is feeling, feeling, feeling. When a feeling attaches itself to a thought, feeling of happiness, sadness, feeling of anger, anything, feeling of love, any of these, right? Both the yin and the yang of feelings. When they attach to a particular thought, that thought gets fuel. The thought becomes strong because of feeling that attaches to the thought. So when I said like this, like an elephant materializes in the room, you'll just laugh. Just ignore it. There's no emotion is evoked, no feeling is evoked, nothing like, oh my God, an elephant. We don't do that. We just dismiss it because it's an unbelievable thing. Right? It doesn't invoke anything. So that thought comes and just goes. We laugh it off. But when I say there is some dark force inside that closet, don't go there. Then you say, oh my God, don't even talk about that. Please don't talk about such things. When we say don't talk about such things, that don't wanting to talk, that thought is now added feeling. So what you don't want actually manifests, because that is also a desire. What you don't want manifests because that is also a desire. This Icha siddhi is a very powerful siddhi. It's number 8 in the siddhis. We have to understand that what you don't want, and when you don't want it with great energy and power, I don't even want to think about it. No, please don't bring it to my ears. I don't want to think about it. Guess what is happening? That thought is manifesting from deep inside your consciousness and will eventually manifest in the external world. Why? Because you're not wanting it. That repulsion, that feeling of repulsion adds power to that thought. Now, what about the thought that I want? When I want something very much, let's say I want $1 million. Oh, I really want $1 million. I love to have the $1 million. Or I want that car, I want that car, I want that home, whatever it is. I want. Now there is tremendous feeling of the lack of that, which is why I want it, right? So I am focusing on the lack of that. And therefore the lack of it manifests itself. So Icha siddhi is still happening. But we are not understanding what is going on below the thoughts levels. When I want Shiva, this is how I learned with Baba. Because he asked me, when you think of me, why are you not happy? I said, Swami, I want you, I'm yearning for you. I thought it was bhakti. He said, bhakti ka, that is not bhakti, that is hysteria, he said. And he scolded me. He spent months really pulling me down, my ego. But I learned a very valuable lesson then. Because in our idea of wanting God, we are creating more of the want. Because we are focusing on the lack of God in our lives. In our personal life, let us say. Oh, Swami, why are you not talking to me? Why are you creating distance from me? When am I ever going to realize all this? At some level, not conscious thinking, but there's a feeling that is actually manifesting, and that lack of spiritual fulfillment, the lack of God in our lives, the lack of attainment, whatever we call it, the lack of it is where we begin to focus. That is given our feeling, and so the lack begins to manifest, not the object. So how do we turn that around? Baba said, when you think of Swami, your heart should be filled with joy. Why are you thinking of yourself? This is exactly how he asked me. Why are you thinking of yourself? Na to Swami maatlaatan ledu, na ko chubichan ledu. He's not looking at me, he's not talking to me. You're thinking more of yourself. You're not thinking of me at all. It is more about you. And therefore what you're lacking is what is going to happen. Alage untundi neeku. Swami eppudu dorukadu. He said, you will never get Swami. And he really pushed me to the wall to make me understand that. Even then I didn't understand, and then later on, of course, it all made sense. But that was my journey. But all of that learning I apply in my everyday life. I take that lesson and I apply it in everything. The more I think of why I don't have that, when am I going to get that? Why am I being treated like this? Why is the universe punishing me? This is all about I, me and mine. What is it that you want? Whatever you want, if that fills your heart with joy, because that is what you want, right? I want an ice cream. I think of the ice cream. Oh my gosh, my heart fills with joy. And there is true happiness coming from within, not put up from outside, not, oh, I'm supposed to be happy, let me be. No, a real happiness comes because I think of that joy. Then, believe it or not, it will manifest. That is the beauty of these siddhis. When you understand these energies, when you worship these devis with that understanding, they are ready to give it to you. But we don't understand them. We misuse these energies within us because of a lack of understanding. So my dear brothers and sisters, for today we'll stop here. I know we are way out of time. But please try and study these siddhis from this angle. You will notice that all of these siddhis will begin to manifest in your life. And you'll be completely content, you'll be ready to move on. Because you can always come to these external gates once you're inside from Devi. Can always come. They lose interest in you. They part way and give you the journey, allow you to continue to higher realms, because you have said, all right, I've understood all this. What more is there in me? What more dimension can I explore? And so you move on with great gratitude. So that is the beauty. When you seek progress not out of a discontentment of where you are, that doesn't help at all. You can't say, I wish I was getting all my time to do sadhana. I hate my job. I hate my commitments to family. I don't like all this. I want to be all the time doing puja and singing bhajans or doing meditation. If that is coming out of a place of discontentment, then what you don't want is what is going to stay in your consciousness. That is exactly where you will be for the rest of your life, because I'm focusing on what I don't want. I don't want ever to be reborn again. I don't want to be reborn again. I want liberation. I don't want this life at all. It's too complicated. Guess what? You're going to be reborn again and again, because your wanting liberation is to escape something. And the moment you focused on what you want to escape on, the deep unconscious and the subconscious, the chitta, doesn't understand what you want, what you don't want. It just manifests to you where your energy goes, where your emotions go. So what you don't want very strongly also manifests. That is why raga and dvesha, both are bad. Hatred or repulsion, attachment or attraction, both are extremes. The middle road is good. So Icha Shakti is something one has to understand deeply. Meditate on the Icha Siddhi. And may these Devis within us also guide us. May the Supreme Mother Goddess, sitting in the center of the universe, sitting in us, guide us and make us understand these principles, her energies, and we begin to live our life more fully. I know we ran out of time, so I'm going to simply chant Aim Kleem Sauhu, Sauhu Kleem Aim, for at least 3 minutes before we bring the satsang to an end. The Aim Kleem Sauhu is all the three Devis, the goddess of learning, Saraswati, the goddess of abundance, Lakshmi, and the goddess of power and manifestation, goddess Durga. All of them come and merge into Rajarajeshwari, the queen among queens. So let us invoke this in this form of this divine child, waiting to guide us, to speak to us, to love us. Aim Kleem Sauhu, Sauhu Kleem Aim. 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 Aim Kleem Sauhu,
Sauh Klim Aim. Aim Klim Sauh. 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 Sauh Klim Aim. Samastaloka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samastaloka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samastaloka Sukhino Bhavantu. May all the beings in all the worlds be happy. Jai Bolo Pavan Sutta Hanuman Ki Jai. सियावर रामचंद्र की जय। सतगुरु साईनाथ महाराज की जय। नमः पार्वती पतये हर हर महादेव। शांति शांति शांति।